Hi, I'm Sydney Freed here at the 2017 Spring Training here in Glendale, Arizona. I'm here with baseball super agent Bo McKinnis. Thanks so much for being here, Bo.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah, it's so great. Okay, so we're going to start off with you love your players to have the limelight on them, not on you. However, you are a superstar agent. Can you tell us a little bit how things have changed since you were a manager at Mississippi State for the Bulldogs?
You're too kind to say that. It's a different world. It's a very different world. I used to call myself the nation's tallest foul ball chaser when I was the student manager at Mississippi State. But now to be living out my two loves of business and baseball and to have been able to put them together has just been a real blessing.
Who was one of your biggest influences in baseball?
It was definitely Coach Ron Polk at Mississippi State. Coach Polk was actually the reason I went to school there. I was torn between wanting to be a college baseball coach and wanting to go to Wall Street. And I felt like I needed to go to graduate school to go to Wall Street. So I wanted to spend undergrad working on the baseball part. And I wrote to Coach Polk about being the student manager of the team there. And it was just the greatest thing I ever did. He's just a wonderful man. And Coach Polk is a caring person and just has an amazing network of people across the country in the game of baseball. So he was a great role model for me in terms of how to deal with people, but he was also a great educator in terms of giving me a good baseball education. And so much of my early years in my career, every phone call I would make would start out with, Ron Polk said to tell you hello. And that would certainly get me in the door and give me some immediate credibility with different people.
What's some of the best advice he ever gave you?
When I started out, I truly didn't know what I was doing. It was an undergrad teammate who asked me to represent him. I did it as I was entering into graduate school at Vanderbilt, more so just because I cared for this guy and I enjoyed being able to stay in touch with him. But as we approached the next spring, two other Mississippi State players asked me to represent them. And I thought, this is getting serious. I have three people wanting to put their lives in my hands, and I truly didn't know what I was doing. And there wasn't a college course you could take on being an agent. There wasn't a book you could read on it. So I called Coach Polk and I said, hey, what do I do here? Because this is truly their lives. And Coach Polk gave me wonderful advice. He said, call everyone you know in professional baseball. He said, call general managers, assistant general managers, scouts, players. He said they all deal with agents in different ways, so he said learn from their experiences. Well, that was wonderful advice, except I didn't know anyone in professional baseball. So he handed me his Rolodex, and I did. I flipped through, I called so many, and I would say, Ron Polk said to say hello. And it led to what was probably my next greatest influence in my career, which was Jeff Brantley. Jeff played 14 years as a relief pitcher. Went on to be on ESPN's Baseball Tonight and is now the color commentator for the Reds. But when I called him, he had already been in professional baseball for 5 years, was on his third agent. And I asked, why did you hire each of the three and why did you fire the two that you fired? And he said he had concluded that the agent business was screwed up. He said, you're supposed to be a professional like a doctor or a dentist. And he said, if you moved to a new town and you were looking for a dentist, you wouldn't have someone knock on your door and say, hey, I'm Babe Ruth's dentist, let me be your dentist. If anything, it would just freak you out. So he said, we're messed up in that agents are choosing players, and it should be the player choosing the agent. And he said the only proper way for a player to choose an agent is to have a third person that not only says this guy's a great agent, but also that he'll represent you in the way you want to be represented. So he told me then, he said, I don't ever want you to recruit players. He said, I don't want you to write anyone or call anyone. He said, you have three players who want you to take care of them. Do a great job for them and you'll get more players. So when I hung up the phone with him, he had actually hurt my feelings because I thought, well, no one knows who I am, so it's not going to work out. But it turned out he was 100% correct. I just focused on taking care of my guys, and it's led to other people. So definitely Ron Polk and Jeff Brantley are probably the two greatest influences in my career.
That's amazing. What was it about you that made those three players ask you to be their agent out of nowhere? I mean, you weren't even trying to be an agent.
Yeah, it's unusual for sure. I'm very, very blessed. I feel a little Forrest Gump like in the way my life has crossed paths with different folks. But when I was at Mississippi State, I guess I did show some business instinct. So much so that as a sophomore, the coaches handed off the team travel to me, and so I would take care of the meals and the hotels, and it somewhat became a joke with the players when we would go on the road. The players would pile in my hotel room to hear me call Burger King and say, I'll buy 30 Whoppers and 30 fries from you if you'll throw in 30 chicken sandwiches. And I guess that was the beginning of my negotiating. So when we got to my senior year, we were actually number 1 in the nation. And of our 22 players on our conference travel roster, 17 ended up playing professional baseball. So we would go in the locker room and there would be letters from agents, and the players didn't know agents any better than I did. And so it was just, in their eyes, it was strangers contacting them. And so it was my very first player was Pete Young. Pete had numerous people from across the country contacting him, and as he and his dad said to me, we've concluded the number 1 element we need in an agent is trust. And we trust you, and we don't know these other people. And even when I said I don't know what I'm doing, they said that's okay. We trust that not only you won't cheat Pete, but you'll also, if you don't know the answer to something, you'll go find it. Yeah, it was really neat that trust and relationships built into this.
Yeah, well, I think those Burger King meals sound a little bit better than the bologna sandwiches that Dan got.
Butter and bologna, Illinois State. Mississippi, no wonder Mississippi came from.
There's a Burger King for every meal. Oh, it's such a fun story, though.